Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast after almost 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
So, I am your host. My name is whatever it was supposed to be. That it's been so long that I don't remember now.
I don't either.
Was it Stupendous? No. I'm going to have to look at the text that Colin and I were sending back and
Was
forth.
it Vicious?
Maybe it was Vicious.
It was Vicious. It was Vicious.
Because you are delicious, Dwaylon Davis.
That's right.
And that name is sticking.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, I'm going to change it on the Zoom. I don't think that the names actually show up on Zoom like when we do it, put it on YouTube. But I'm going to change it delicious Dwaylon Davis. You know, I've had to change people's names before when they pop up and it's their actual shoot name.
Yeah.
When interviewing, I think, hold on, let me
fix that. Yeah, just in case it shows up.
Yeah, to your wrestling name, because some of them, I mean, they're very, very protective of their privacy. You know, which
I don't blame them.
Yeah, I don't blame them one bit. So I was like, yeah, let me go ahead and fix that. You know, so it didn't pop up. And next thing you know, they have people knocking on the door, going, hey, people knocking on, hey, I saw you the other night. I don't like what you did. You know, so
yeah,
so people get like that. Unfortunately,
people are crazy. Yeah.
Yep. And speaking of crazy, today we're going to be reviewing SummerSlam 2022. Now, this is probably going to be the most different kind of review we will ever do, unless we have an opportunity that comes like this in the future. Because Dwaylon's going to be reviewing it from a person he was actually there in person in Nashville, 5 rows from the very top of the stadium.
Yeah.
But he can still see everything.
Yeah, I bought the cheap seats because.
But the picture you sent me, you know, that where you see the ring, it didn't look like it was that bad.
No, well, the zoom on my phone is fantastic.
And he also has a zoom on his phone, which is great. And I know they had the videos that they were.
Yeah, they had the the video walls at each end zone because they were at the Nissan Stadium, the Titans field. So they had that, and then they had one above the ring too, so you could see what was going on. Because when we first got there, we got once we got to our seats, Hope was saying how the ring from where we were sitting, the ring looked like one of Caden's little toy wrestling rings that he used to have when he was little. I mean, it's like it did look like that, but I'm glad they had. It was kind of cool though, watching the matches and going back and forth, watching like in the ring and then the video.
Yeah. But yeah, so Dwaylon was there watching live, so he could not. Obviously, you could not hear the commentary.
No, which my wife thought was very weird. She's like, this is weird to me. She said, I like the entrance, I like the end of the match. She's like, but there's no commentary, so you're just sitting here watching it. And I'm like, yeah, pretty much.
I'm pretty sure somebody there had the Peacock network pulled up and were watching it on their phone or listening on their phone.
Oh, I'm sure somebody did. I didn't think about that. I should have.
But the delay would be,
yeah,
you know, because they had to have they always have to have the 7-second delay.
Yeah.
Especially during the last match, and I know they had the 7-second delay during the last match.
Yeah.
And because at one point all of a sudden you did hear it.
Yeah.
Sound dropped and then came out, but I know the reason why because I know exactly what was being said. Because when you're our age, I mean, you just know these things. But before we move on to that, I'm going to go ahead and give our contact and list info if I can remember it, since I was the one who was it was my fault that we weren't able to do anything for like almost 2 weeks.
Well, I mean, you took your daughter to Florida to move her in down there. I mean, you're spending time with your family. We always say family comes first. So,
and I even said, if the Wi-Fi connection is good enough, we may try it if I get time. Unfortunately, you had the free Wi-Fi, but they actually said no streaming, which meant you could try to stream. Your signal was not going to be very good.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know, or you could pay between $15 and $20 a day, depending on which hotel you were in.
A day?
A day. It wasn't just, okay, you're paying for it now, it'll last your entire stay.
Whole trip.
Yeah, it was 15 to 220, like I said, depending on which hotel, because we stayed in different hotels. This wasn't just us driving straight to Orlando, staying there, and then just driving back. You know, so we stayed in a few different hotels, like on the way there. It took us 3 days. Well, we stopped. Well, first night was in right outside Asheville, North Carolina, and next morning we got up and drove to Jekyll Island, Georgia, and we were there for a few days,
Oh, okay. Okay.
which very nice place. Um, Definitely go check that out if you're looking for like a vacation where you just want to kind of sit and chill and on the beach and um, where you can swim, things like that. Where you're not looking to go party, party, party every day.
Hmm.
Good place. Really good place. And we had a pretty good time, even though we did had a couple of complaints about the hotel that they were valid complaints. And my wife, when she left, they realized, oh my, she's a travel agent, and so
Yeah.
and the manager, she was actually really cool because well, one of the big complaints was um, like the first morning we were there, we were starving. We woke up a little bit later because we slept in because we'd been
Hmm.
traveling for a few days, and we get down to the restaurant, and it's 10 after 10. And the website advertises it stops at 11.
Right.
Their paper or the stuff they hand us at the hotel says 10:30. I walk up to order, and they said, "Oh, the cook just shut down the grill."
No.
No, and they're like, "Oh, we can let him know. He can start it back up." And we're like, "I don't want him spitting in my food,"
Exactly. Exactly.
So, um, and of course, like the next morning, we made sure we got down there way before, beforehand, so we make
Hmm.
sure. But when we left, my wife, she told the manager, and the manager, she was extremely apologetic. She's like, because they just opened up a few months ago, so they're still working out a lot of kinks.
Gotcha.
One of the things also, and she said, oh, she was going to find out who it was working that morning, and
Hmm.
she was going to be having a meeting with them to find out why are you shutting down the grill 20 minutes early when
Yeah.
there are people in line who were hungry wanting to eat,
Hmm.
without actually coming out and announcing, hey, we just ran out of food. Okay, I could it
That's
sucks,
yeah, but
but
that's understandable.
that's
Yeah.
understandable. And nowadays, that supply chain issues are everywhere. So things
Yeah.
like that happen.
Yeah.
I've seen McDonald's run out of hamburgers.
Hmm.
It happens, unfortunately. But she said she's got a meeting with that. She's like, not only that, but we don't have an electric car, but they have parking spots for electric cars.
Hmm.
And you see people parked there in vehicles that were not nowhere. I'm sorry,
Oh.
an F-150 is not an electric car.
No. No.
And people were just parked there, um, and my wife being the travel agent, she's like, because she's even telling me, she's like, because I would love to recommend this place. She's like, because besides the little things like that, the place is lovely. And what the
Hmm.
manager said, yeah, they've had a problem with that people parking there. She's like, they've actually asked people, we need you to move your car. And the people look at them, no, okay. A tow truck moved their car for them.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And because they will call the tow. If you don't want to move your vehicle, they will move it for you. So, and there was, a few other little things. But there were little things, but they actually gave us like $100 rebate or $100, yeah, yeah, rebate or whatever you want to call it, reimbursement.
Cool.
Then actually the manager said the reason why because she was grateful to hear about those things
Hmm.
because she would not have known about them otherwise.
Right. Right.
So and she doesn't want somebody extremely irate
Hmm.
coming to them and um but besides, yeah, but Jekyll Island's really nice. And then, of course, went down to Orlando and um, went to Universal first night, and that was kind of a mistake because my son was on his scooter, his little thing because of his broken
Yeah.
ankle. He had a miserable time because it's hard to even get back. And then people are just jerks. Um, I'm not
Hmm.
going to say the names. We called a few people because at one point his legs were so sore. His right leg from being that's the one he was having to use to move around. His left leg because it was just bent on
Right.
the
Yep.
scooter. And so eventually we just had him sit on it, put his feet in it, and we pulled him. Well, some
Hmm.
woman said, "Oh, look at the little baby," or something like that. And my wife turned around and said a couple of things that were not very nice to the woman. and, and then there was somebody else. We were going along, and it was getting close to the end. They were getting ready to close. They had already closed one side of the park because Universal, is set up in like two different sections, like
Hmm.
Universal Studios, and then I can't remember the other one. Um, but it's two totally different sections. And our side was, one side already closed, and so our side was. getting ready to close in like 30 minutes. So people walking out. This woman stops. I mean, right in front of me. We smacked into her, because she had just stopped that sudden.
Mm-hmm.
And I may have called her a not so nice name either. Not the worst name I could have called somebody, but it's a compound word. The first word was dumb.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, so the first night was not as great. But I mean, the rest of the trip, went a lot smoother because we only stayed in that hotel just that one night. That was actually another lesson learned on our part, because we wanted to stay in this really, really, really nice place.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, we had to be out by a certain time the next morning, or
Right.
else they charge you for another night. I'm like, I don't want to get charged for another night, so we need to get up and get out.
Yep.
Get checked out so we can. I mean, this place had valet parking.
Wow.
Yeah, and and of course, we saw somebody pull up to do the valet parking. I had never seen a BMW Roadster before.
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, with the doors that kind of go straight up.
Yep.
It's like out slightly and then up. I'm like, what are they driving? I'm like, it looks like a BMW. BMW makes like a Ferrari looking car.
Yeah.
Or a Lamborghini looking. I was like, wow. And of course, they got out, and because they have the kind of money to afford that car and valet parking. I'm like, I want to be your friend.
It's like, can I just hang out with you?
I was, yeah. I mean, but we still did. It's kind of cool things. We went to the world's largest McDonald's, right there in Orlando, and the ice cream machine was still broken.
Yeah.
It was I mean, they actually had a line because that's like its own separate little register, where you can get like any kind of the ice cream stuff. And it was, broken. I was like, I wonder if they did that just as a prop anyway,
Probably.
but this place had pasta, they had pizza, they had stuff that you don't normally find at McDonald's. And I just got a couple of McChickens.
Did they have hot dogs?
They did not have hot dogs. I know they have in the past, but
I know that used to be a thing. McDonald's tried out having hot dogs, but it was like, nah.
We did have hot dogs at a place a couple of days later at an A&W. In fact, on the way to Orlando, we stopped at Cookout in Pooler, Georgia. Cookouts, I'll tell you what, Cookout's
good. Yeah, there's one here. When we lived in Murray, we used to go to the Cookout a lot. It's good place.
Well, we had eaten at a Cookout in is either North or South Carolina on a totally different trip a few years ago. We said, okay, we're going to have to make sure we stop by at least one Cookout on the way to and from. And so we stopped at one in Pooler just because I haven't said, oh, Cookout, let's go there, because we were starting to get that hungry. Oh, what do you want to eat? I don't know. What do you want to eat? I want this. So I'm like, Cookout, we're going there. Okay. So because we all like Cookout.
Yeah.
And so on the way back, we also stopped at a Cookout in Richmond, Kentucky.
Okay.
That one, food was good. However, they were drive-through only.
Oh, yeah, I've been to the one in Richmond.
Okay.
Kids had a swim meet in Richmond a few years ago when they were on the Special Olympics.
Okay.
Swim team, and we had the year-end meets and stuff were in Richmond. So yeah, I've been to that one. That at the time, there was no COVID though, so it was still dine in, but the food was good.
Yeah. Oh, the food's fantastic. I mean, because all right, everybody, if you live in the South, you're normally used to eating like Cookout type food. That's what it was. It's hot dogs, hamburgers, things like that. And so got myself a couple hot dogs there. And then we drove to the Buc-ee's, the brand, because we stopped at Buc-ee's on the way down because I had never been to Buc-ee's. And so we passed by. I was like, well, I guess we're not going to hit Buc-ee's on the way back. We're just going to hit Cookout. What do you mean drive through only? So we turned around, went right back to the Buc-ee's so we could, didn't want to eat while driving
in the car. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's my wife's new car, and she has a thing about, right now it's brand new car, and she will punch you in the face if you drop a crumb. And I'm like, it's on a road trip. It's going to get dirty. You cannot avoid getting dirty on a road trip.
And she's like, oh, yes, you can.
Yes, you can. And so we went over to the Buc-ee's, still ate in the car, but it's a lot easier to not get crummy.
Right.
But missed a chance of meeting both Jamie and John from True Crime Cast and Bless Our Hearts. Almost met John, but he had a meeting that came up. He was going to be in at the exact same time that we were going to be at Buc-ee's. And so he's like, okay, next time. Jamie was actually out of town in that one because he was in Boston helping film part of a documentary, a true crime
Oh,
documentary. Yep.
cool.
You know, but he was there in town. John was out of town. We were coming back because John was on vacation, ironically enough, down in Florida.
Hmm.
He was around St. Augustine, I think. So Jamie and I were like, okay, maybe we, he and I can meet up. But he couldn't because his wife is actually helping out with the floods in Eastern Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
So he has a kid.
Yeah,
So he
that's been
couldn't.
pretty bad too.
Apparently, we drove through that rain. That
Really?
yeah, we didn't even realize the flood. I mean, because we were on 75,
Hmm.
heading down, so we didn't realize what the floods were doing until the first night we stopped. And I'm like, the headline that then said 5 people killed so
Hmm.
far. Governor of Kentucky says there will probably be more, and I'm like,
Yeah, there's I think it's up to
is it,
15 or 20,
really?
maybe more.
I thought it was in the 30s. Hold on, let me.
Might be by now.
Um,
The thing with Eastern Kentucky though, there's a lot of hollers
yeah.
up there where it's like you're down in this, valley
Hmm.
almost. And when that rain, when that all that water comes through, there's no way to avoid it.
And now it's been a week, so of course it's not going to be the really big news story anymore.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, but I know it was a lot,
Yeah,
unfortunately. And
unfortunately, yeah.
in fact, I was catching up on my podcast this morning, and on the True Crime Cast, um, Jamie actually he comes in the very beginning. And he said, "This is not a normal advertisement, so please don't skip us." And he said, we're helping raise money to help the people in Eastern Kentucky.
Hmm.
So we'll try to look a little bit more, and then I'll probably um, have to stop because we got wrestling to talk about. Um, and you know what? I can't find it right now. So, um, but either way, if you know of a way to help out the people in Eastern Kentucky, because yeah, they were hit pretty hard. My wife actually has family members in Jackson. That was one of the towns that were hit pretty bad,
Mm,
and yeah, so she's starting to hear updates from them. Because
yeah,
some of them, I mean, they evacuated.
yeah,
But there was somebody else though. They think their house may have been
just
taken.
gone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but um, but anyway, but yeah, we ate back to the original story, which is also not the wrestling story, but we're coming back, and so I wasn't able to meet Jamie then, but we said definitely, we're gonna have all because I'm about 2.5 hours away from them
Hmm.
because we're about a little over 2 hours away from Richmond. They live in Berea, which is like 10-20 minutes away from Richmond,
Right.
and they go up to that Bucky's and they cook it all. In fact, when I told Jamie, I was like, yeah, so the cookout is drive-through only. And he's like, man, they're still doing that. I was like apparently it's been on for a while,
Yeah.
drive-through only. So, um, but anyway, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, for boring you about, that part of the travel stories. I will throw in more as we go. But first, I want to give our contact listening info as long as I can remember it because it's been that long. If you'd like to email us, it's armchairbookingpodcast@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/armchairbookingpodcast. Find us on Instagram at armchairbooking. Find us on TikTok at bookingarmchair. Find us, find us on Twitter at bookingarmchair. Find us on TikTok at Armchair Booking Podcast. And I will have to say it like that because apparently I've been saying it wrong because when I gave Dwaylon the information to log in to maybe upload some videos from SummerSlam, gave him the wrong information. And I'm like, I know that password works. I gave him the right password. I didn't give him the right username. So I'm like, my bad. I don't know. I haven't even checked. Were you able to log?
No, I was never able to get in. It was still wouldn't let
Really?
me in. So I don't know what was going on.
Huh. I wonder because yeah, TikTok's not one of those where you can only be logged in one device at a time for a username.
No, because Hope and I are both, we're both logged into our big and fat page. So I don't know. It
Hmm.
was weird because I used all the information you gave me and it still wouldn't, even
Hmm.
if you gave me the different username, it still
Yeah.
wouldn't let me in.
Yeah, because that
So
was weird. Because I actually had to log out because I couldn't remember
yeah,
the password. I had to log out, and keep trying on passwords until I finally got it
yeah.
right.
And I didn't want to keep trying. I didn't want to keep doing it because it only gave you 5 attempts before it locks you out of the
Ah,
account. So
gotcha.
I tried a couple of times and it didn't work, so I'm like, I don't want to lock us out. So
Okay. I mean, I could just change the password, but that's the story for another day. That way we we both have it. Well, I thought we both had it now, but I don't know what I did. Anyway, now I'm going to look at the password that I gave to you. But anyway, so at TikTok, it's at Armchair Booking Podcast, and you can find our merch store. It's at tpublic.com/user/armchair-booking-podcast. You can find us on YouTube. You know that already if you're watching us, but we're on no other video platforms that I know of. I haven't even heard about any third-party ones because YouTube, I mean, they lock stuff down pretty tight.
Oh yeah. You're on there. Yeah, they keep it locked down. Yeah.
I mean, you can go. I don't know if there's a way I can upload to like Daily Motion, because that's another one. But
Yeah.
their Daily Motion, that one's it's almost they almost have too much at times. It's almost hard to find stuff because
Yeah.
do a search and all of a sudden you'll get like 1,000 results, in addition to whatever it is you're looking for, and you got to sift through everything. But I know you used to be able to find some good speed run videos for video games.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's usually what I would go there for.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, somebody just beat Mario 3 in like 11 minutes. I got to check this out.
Yeah. It's like, I got to know how they did it.
Yeah. No exaggeration. It's like 11 minutes. And they had like over 99 extra lives.
Yeah.
And then I saw that. I was like, I didn't find out later on they're using an emulator. I'm like, I don't care. That was just cool.
Yeah.
So, but as far as audio platforms go, you can find us just about any kind of audio platform there is. If we're not there, let us know. We do whatever we can to get ourselves added. You can find Dwaylon at fat_daddy73 on Twitter. You can find him on his YouTube and TikTok channels at
excuse me,
Big and Fat. And you can find my other podcast at the Cubicle Chat. Just go on the audio platforms, not on video yet, but you can find that Twitter at cubicle_chat. And there's also a Facebook page for it, but I do more stuff on Twitter because I'm trying to build it. And I've kind of figured out Twitter is really the way to go as far as like getting listeners.
Yep.
But Facebook is kind of a good way to advertise things. It's
so
I mean, it's good to use both for for whatever. So I don't believe I forgot anything because I think last time, even doing this all the time, I still forgot something.
No, I think you got everything this time.
I got it. Okay, cool. So how was it live at SummerSlam?
It was amazing. Honestly, one of the best nights of my life. It was just fantastic. Like the experience of being there, and Hope said I was in my element. There was, just surrounded by wrestling fans, and you're talking to people and just talking about wrestling, which is what I love to do. So it was great. It was awesome.
And you were wearing some new T-shirts that you and Hope designed.
Yeah. Hope made us a new logo for the podcast. She made shirts for us to wear so that we could advertise the podcast at SummerSlam, which we were able to do. We got several people that were adding us, like we got several people at the show, and then we went out to eat afterwards, and a guy added our podcast to his list.
Awesome.
Of podcasts to listen to. Hope put all of our contact information on the back of my shirt, and so it was pretty cool. The guy stopped us on the way to our seats, added our podcast to his list. He said he tries to support all the wrestling podcasts, so he said he'd be sure to give us a listen and spread the word. So, yeah.
That may explain some of the different locations because I was able to check this morning. Because I need to. First time of the week, I've been able to really check the stats, and I got to see these locations. I was like, "Wow, there's a lot of different places on there."
Yeah.
So that may explain, quite a few of them.
Yeah, we were definitely getting the word out there. So.
And speaking of the logos, let Hope know. I was able to check all the emails yesterday on the computer. For the first time, because like I said, the Wi-Fi situation was not the greatest when I was on vacation, so I didn't realize that stuff was going to my spam folders.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Her email actually went to the spam folder, and I'm like, Oh, okay. All right. So I was like, yeah. So let her know that, yeah, I got it.
Okay.
And so, but it unfortunately it went to the spam folder, but I was able to get it, thankfully.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
I mean, I might set to like delete everything after 30 days.
Hmm.
Anyway, so it definitely was nowhere close to 30 days. But
Yeah.
um, now you were actually telling me a story, and we'll make this one a quick one before we
Yeah.
start getting into the card itself, and about the guy checking y'all into the hotel.
Yeah, we went to a Super 8 in Nashville. Um, it was like by the time we actually booked our hotel, it was literally like the last thing, the last affordable thing in Nashville that was open. Because everybody, I mean, there were people that we were talking to at the hotel that had come from Georgia and, and further, to see SummerSlam. Plus a lot of people from Kentucky and, because it's as close as we were ever going to have a pay-per-view to us was Nashville. So we get there, Hope's outside. I'm standing in line. Literally, it took me almost an hour to check into the hotel. That's how long the line
Wow.
was. Because the guy that was checking us in was literally leaving the desk every 15 minutes to go hit his crack pipe. And at first I thought people were joking until people were like, no, we literally saw him outside the building around the corner smoking crack. And then he would come back in, he would check in. Sometimes he would check in one person, go back out, hit the pipe again, come back. Then it got to where he got several of us checked in. And the guy was so high that I thought he had gum in his mouth because he was just chewing nonstop. And I thought he had gum in his mouth to, keep his mouth from drying out. My wife's like, no, there's no gum in his mouth because she said, I saw him when he was talking. He was literally chewing his tongue. He was that high.
Wow.
And the hotel, like, I don't complain about much, but I sent complaints too because we're members of Wyndham. We get points for, staying at hotels and stuff. And that Super 8 was under Wyndham's umbrella. Well, I let them know and Super 8 know what was going on. I mean, like they had an elevator, which at any time we were on the elevator, we thought, well, this is it. This is how we're going because it would like just jerk. We'd get to our floor and it would jerk up and down 3 or 4 times before it would stop. I got on the elevator to go get our bags. It went all the way down to the main floor, but then it went down that much further. So I had to step up out of the elevator. Yeah. To get out of it.
Dude.
The elevator reeked of urine. Hope, it was so bad, Hope took her perfume out of her purse and sprayed the whole elevator to try to get rid of that smell. They said on the website that the pool was out of order for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm.
You know why? Because it looked like they were using it as a dumping ground. The pool, there was like dirty water in the bottom of the pool. And it looked like people had just been throwing trash in the pool. The towels in the bathroom, you could tell that somebody had wiped their hands on that towel and it was supposed to be clean towels. The tub wasn't clean. We showered before we came, so we did not shower in that bath, in that shower. We didn't use those towels or anything. It was just, that is the worst spot I've ever stayed in. I've stayed at some rough hotels before, but that's got to be the worst.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't ruin my time. We were just like, it is what it is.
It is a place for our stuff. And
exactly. It was a place for our stuff and a place for us to go to sleep. I mean, that's the only time literally, I mean, we were there was to sleep and change clothes. So
yeah. And speaking of clothes, people on video can see Dwaylon is wearing his souvenir, Nashville 316.
Yep, and it's got the Steve Austin skull on the back. Of course, it's in Titans colors because we were at Nissan Stadium. So, but you could only get this shirt at the event. So
yeah, that's your proof that you were there.
Exactly, because they had a SummerSlam one an official SummerSlam when on the back it says I was there, said Nashville, Tennessee, had the date. Then they had a Brock versus Roman shirt. That was a event exclusive, but those sold out quick in my size because I get a 3X. So those sold out quick.
Another feeling.
So I went through. I was looking on the site that they gave us at the event, and they still had this one. And Hope's like, if you want it, get it, because she's like, this is one of those, you can only get it here, so it's one of those special type things. And so I'm like, okay. So I got it, and then we went and we were able to pick it up there because they had a pickup.
Okay.
There at the stadium later in the evening, so I was able to pick it up there. So I told Hope, I said, I'm going to wear it a few times, and then I think I'm going to buy like one of those T-shirt frames.
Yeah.
And put it in that.
Got to wear it for the podcast, though.
Huh?
Got to wear it for the podcast.
So. Oh yeah, got to wear it for the podcast.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And just as proof that he was there.
Yep.
And he's got pictures also. He sent me the pictures where he was there.
Yep.
And what's funny is, talking about being the stadium.
Uh-huh.
When they first, welcome to SummerSlam, whatever. One of the commentators, I don't remember which one it was, referred to it as the arena. And the other ones lit into him. They're like, this thing doesn't even have a roof. What are you gonna call it an arena?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why when I was watching it, and ladies and gentlemen, I didn't actually watch the pay-per-view until this morning. Just because I couldn't when we were, on vacation. I mean, I was going to try, but in fact, I was going to try when I got home last night. But I texted also Dwaylon. Yeah, I was actually in Richmond when I texted you, by the way. Yeah, we are still at least 2.5 hours away from home.
Yeah.
We're not going to get home till well after 8:30, which is our normal recording time. I was like, we're going to have to do this tomorrow. It's like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
And then I'd actually had somebody, in fact, let me go ahead and get this name because I gave the wrong name last week, and I apologize again. When I was talking about I said a podcast from Nova Scotia.
Mm-hmm.
I should have been talking about Wrestling with the Truth. Instead, I called it One Stop Wrestling.
Right. Okay.
One Stop Wrestling is actually out of the UK, and it is a periodic, like a magazine. And he basically advertises and lets people know about all these the different podcasts, and ours is one of them now.
Mm-hmm.
And he has all of our links on there. I mean, he does a fantastic job. So I gave the wrong name, but he last week, almost 2 weeks ago now, of what I said, I said One Stop Wrestling out of Nova Scotia. Out of Nova Scotia is another good podcast, Wrestling with the Truth.
Right.
Definitely check them out. I mean, and when I apologized, they're like, oh, don't worry, like, we're just glad that you actually give us a shout out. I'm like, yeah, oh, absolutely. There goes they kind of remind me of us.
Yeah.
Except for they're in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
So but really good show. One Stop Wrestling, he actually hit me up and like, hey, are you putting out a episode? Because he's just checking to make sure, hey, make sure everything's all right, that you're still going. And I was like, yeah, yeah, we're down in Orlando. I'm helping my daughter move down here. And like, oh yeah, no worries, and I said, yeah, I'll let you know whenever. I said, we're gonna try to record one Friday night. Obviously that didn't happen.
Right.
But when I told you, yeah, I'm gonna try to watch some before I go to sleep and then catch the rest in the morning, then before we record. It was like 5 minutes into it, I was out, and I caught myself. I'm like, they had not even started the first match, and I'm like, yeah, I'm that tired. I'm not gonna be able to do this. So I watched it all this morning. So a lot of this is still fresh in my head, and that's when I have in my notes. Commentator referred to the arena, and he was corrected. And I said, this is the first post VKM retirement premium live event. So, and
you can definitely tell the changes, like even at the beginning, after the first match, you can tell you could tell the changes already that Triple H is implementing. So it was, made it even a better show, because the first match was Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair.
Yeah.
another amazing match, which I mean, it's to be expected with these
Hmm.
two. They have great chemistry. Both of them are great wrestlers in their own right. They put on a great match. Unfortunately, Becky did get injured legitimately. Uh,
That was pretty early on too, wasn't it? Because
yeah,
she started favoring that shoulder kind of early.
it was when she took the Glam Slam. She when Bianca got her up and Becky took it, she landed on her shoulder instead of
Okay.
landing flat.
Yep.
As soon as I saw that, I told Hope, I'm like, I think Becky's legitimately injured because I saw that awkward landing. Everybody that was sitting around me when she landed, we were all like, oh, like
Yeah.
loudly, like, oh, she did not land good. And she actually, her shoulder ended up, not only did she separate her shoulder popped out when she landed.
Yeah.
She popped it back in and wrestled 20 more minutes with a
Yeah.
separated shoulder. Yeah.
That's what I was like.
Yeah, because like you said, that happened like early on within the first 5 minutes of the match. And she wrestled another 20 minutes with a separated shoulder. And I mean, and was given as good as she got. So, bravo to Becky for being able to gut that out and wrestle an amazing match with a separated shoulder.
And some of my notes I have Bianca looks like she's added even more muscle.
Yes. Yes,
Because
she does.
man, I
That's
mean
her strength is ridiculous.
yeah.
And I mean, seeing it on TV is one thing, but seeing it live and seeing how people react to it is just, if they don't build that women's division around her, something is seriously wrong because there is your face of your women's division.
Oh, absolutely. And now you put this should have been the match last year.
Yes, absolutely. Instead of that 26-second farce we got
Yeah. And
last year.
they killed Bianca's push for no reason
Yeah.
except for Becky's back. Let's give it and
Well, Becky's back. Let's get this big SummerSlam moment real quick. Let's get this big pop from the crowd and something my brother brought to my attention, which I hadn't thought deeply about it. The reason that they want all these big moments instead of the reason Vince McMahon wanted all these big moments instead of worrying about big matches is because they can put those moments on YouTube and get millions of views. And of course, I'm sure, I'm sure WWE's monetized on YouTube. So that's just
yep.
money that they're getting from those views. So they're just worried about social media not putting on a great wrestling match. I feel like with Triple H, he's more concerned, not that I'm sure he's concerned about the social media aspect, but Triple H is a wrestling guy.
Mm-hmm.
He grew up as a fan. He's a student of wrestling. He's, a Hall of Fame bound pro wrestler. Um, Triple H loves pro wrestling and I feel like he wants to put on the best product that he can. And I would have liked to see this match a little deeper into the card, but it did get the crowd hot
Mm-hmm.
and the right person won. Bianca won. I like the show of respect at the end. Becky's turn, her face turn because now she's officially a face. She's the number 2's face on Raw behind Bianca Belair as far as their internal listing goes in the company. When Bayley came out, her music hit, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's Bayley!" And like all of us just stood up looking, and Bayley comes out, and then Dakota Kai comes out, who had recently been released because she didn't want to renew her contract. Triple H brought her back. Io Shirai, which they've renamed her Io Sky. But I don't like the names that they give people when they rename them. But Io Sky works because like
Mm-hmm.
her nickname was Genius of the Sky because she does like a beautiful moonsault and all types of like top rope aerial stuff. So I'm okay with Io Sky. Um, Plus, if she ever leaves, then she gets to use Io Shirai wherever she goes. So I'm fine with that. But they bring her up from NXT, and there was talk that she might be leaving because her contract was up and she hadn't re-signed. Dakota Kai left because she didn't sign a contract, so Vince McMahon released her, and then Bailey's been gone over a year because of an
she was
injury.
an injury, yeah.
Yeah, so you've got talk about an you know a talk about an infusion of talent to your main roster. You get a Grand Slam champion in Bailey. You get a multiple time tag champion in Dakota Kai, who has wrestled all over the world. You get a former NXT women's tag team champion in Io Shirai. She has also won pretty much everything there was to win in Stardom. Just world traveled professional wrestlers that are now getting focus on the main roster.
From your vantage point, could you see, like, I don't want to call it the Titantron, but the video screens, where they normally come in, like on a Raw or SmackDown?
Yeah, I couldn't see the screen over the entrance when they came out. Like when I stood up, I could see after they had walked out enough to where the crowd could see. I could see them then, but I couldn't see the entrance.
Okay, because Io Sky Shirai,
Mm-hmm.
that's actually Io Sky / Shirai. Hers actually still said Io Shirai.
Yeah.
The commentators kept switching the names. It's almost like they didn't know what to call her because what they said, Io Shirai. I mean, so I think they were legitimately confused. It was like, okay, y'all are changed your name, but you still have the old name up there.
Yeah, they hadn't changed the Tron yet. Yeah.
And I think that was right at the time it was actually the next match. That's when I texted you and said, "Hey, have you watched this on the Peacock Network yet?"
No, I haven't watched
so.
it. I still want to go back and watch it with the commentary. Plus, Savannah hasn't watched it yet, so I'll probably watch it with her.
Okay.
Because she was interested in seeing it, especially after I told her everything from when I was there. But yeah, and then you thought that Bailey, Sky and Dakota Kai were going to attack Bianca, and then Bailey stepped up and next to Bianca was like, "Come on!"
Oh, you mean Becky?
Yeah, Becky.
Yeah,
Becky stepped up next to Bianca and was like, "Come on!" And it's like, well, the face turn is complete, and
yep.
And Becky's even changed her Twitter back to the man.
Okay.
So I think that's what they're going with from here on, because the next night on Raw, Bianca said, basically told her that she was the man. And
it also, doesn't hurt that Flair has now wrestled his last match the very next night.
Nope, not his last match, because he put on Twitter that him and Andrade were doing something in Puerto Rico. So I guarantee you Flair's wrestling the match in Puerto Rico, which if that's the case, then
that's false advertisement.
Then you just lied to, I think, 450,000 people. It was the most viewed indie show ever. And so because he said me and Andrade are doing big things in Puerto Rico. And so he may not be wrestling, but I can guarantee you with Flair, he's going to give it one more go. If people are paying out money, Flair's not going to turn it down.
Oh, well, when Becky stuck out her hand, and this is how you knew her injury was legit. She stuck out her hand for the handshake. It was her left hand.
Yes. Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, you don't do that unless you have a legit reason.
Yeah.
Because some countries, they'll cut you for sticking out your left hand for a handshake.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, straight up. I mean,
yeah,
it's considered a huge insult. So for her to do that, it's like, yeah, her shoulder must be really hurting.
Yeah, they said she's going to be out for several months. So I don't know how. I haven't heard how bad the injury is, or if it's going to require surgery. A lot of times, a separated shoulder you can avoid surgery, but it takes up to 12 weeks to heal. So, I mean, she's looking at possibly 4 months out, but I think that'll be good. It'll give her some time to kind of put that big time Beck stuff in the rearview mirror, And then can you imagine the pop that she's going to get when she comes back, if she comes back as the man, and that pop she's going to get when she comes back from injury?
Let her hair grow out so she's no longer looking like Blade Runner.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, I mean, she's a mom, so
yeah,
it gives her some time off and spend time with her baby.
Speaking of moms, next match, Miz and Logan Paul. I say that because Maurice, she's there with the Miz.
Yeah. What this guy sitting next to me, which he was absolutely right. He was sitting next to Hope. He was talking to both of us, and he said, "It doesn't really matter." He's like, "The end of the night, the Miz is going home with Maurice. So win, lose or draw, he's still winning. Yeah. Whether he wins this match or not, he's at the end of the day, he's still winning." I'm like, dude, you're not wrong at all.
Yeah, I mean, she comes up there and just looking like Maurice, and
just wow.
It's like Miz walks out, and you're just like,
I do have a video that I have to send you that I took of Logan Paul. I got a video of him doing the frog splash from the top rope through the table.
Really?
Yeah, I've got to send you that video. I forgot to put it on my Facebook page when I was posting pictures and videos, but yeah, I managed to get that. As soon as he got Miz on the table and went to the top, I'm like, I thought he was going to do an elbow drop or something. So, but I still wanted to get a video. But that frog splash was picture perfect. I will give Logan Paul, I'm willing to admit when I was wrong, and he is definitely a celebrity that has put in the work and you can tell he has respect for the craft.
And out of all the people in the world,
it's this guy. Yeah.
This guy that you'd be like, oh, him? Really?
No, because when I first saw him, like saw some of his YouTube stuff, and then he was doing all the boxing stuff, and I'm like, this guy is just annoying. He's just another annoying YouTuber that has managed to profit off ignorance, is what I thought at the beginning. But seeing how he did at WrestleMania, and I'm like, okay, first impression was good. And I'm like, okay. When they booked him and the Miz, like I always say on this show, I'm still old school, and I don't feel like the celebrities should be taking spots of wrestlers that are there full time. But I will give him all the credit in the world. He put on an excellent match, especially for this being his second ever professional match.
Yes.
He put on an excellent match. He is a tremendous athlete. And that frog splash through the table was fantastic, especially to see it live. It was a thing of beauty. It was great.
Well, some of the things that I've put on my notes from it. Well, first, this is why I had to ask you, have you watched it yet? Listen to the commentary, because they don't have Vince in their ear telling them every single word to say now.
Mm-hmm. Especially Michael Cole, who had to listen to that for 25 years.
Yes. Well, since this was during one of the Raw matches, Michael Cole wasn't there. It was Byron Saxton and
Corey Graves.
Corey Graves, and there was somebody else. I can't.
Jimmy, is it Jimmy Smith?
I think it is. Yeah. Well, Corey Graves, that dude, I didn't realize how funny that dude can be.
Yeah, when the shackles are off. Yeah.
Yes.
Because like when he would do commentary in NXT, he was gold. Then he does commentary on WWE with Vince in the headset, and it's like they're trying to make him like Bobby Heenan light or something. It's like
this sounded more like Lawler, because once upon he said, Saxton, if you were any smarter, you might approach stupid. And I caught that. I actually had to rewind it. Hit the little 10-second back thing so I could go,
yeah.
Oh, he did. And I was like, all right, hold on. Let me put this down on my notes. But they had a 3-month build to this match.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's actually unlike what they've been doing.
Yeah, and they did it like a lot of it. You got to give Miz credit. I mean, he has a face that I just want to punch every time I see it. But you have to give Miz credit on he was carrying that feud.
Yeah.
Because Logan Paul was doing other things. And I mean, he would do, he'd do his videos to further the feud, but the Miz was pretty much carrying that feud himself and continuing that feud. So and he got it over. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and the match itself was a lot better than what I was expecting.
I said both guys showing good psychology, which they did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they told the story in the ring. Logan Paul, did you notice when he did the chops to the Miz in the corner? He's like pop, pop, pop. I mean, did you notice
Yeah.
his elbow pad came off?
Yes, I saw it fly. Yeah.
And they're like, nobody really said anything about it because I mean, it wasn't part of the thing. It just started sliding down. We did the toss. I was like,
yeah, I saw it fly. I saw it fly across the ring, and I'm like, "Oh, his elbow pad's going."
And also, the commentators, they didn't acknowledge that, so I'm guessing, okay, it wasn't supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
When AJ Styles came out, with Tommaso Ciampa, when he grabbed the chair to sit down, I'm like, okay, this is interesting. They've never had that before, where they try to tell somebody they have to leave, and they
and he's
refuse.
like, "No, I'm not doing it." You could see, like, when AJ came out, it's like he came out of nowhere, and I'm
Okay,
like,
I was gonna ask.
where did he come from? And Hope showed me exactly where he came out, where he came from, but it was like over by the timekeeper, but it was
right.
like kind of off to the side. And then at the end, once he ran Tommaso Ciampa off, you could see them on the back side running like all the way to the locker room. Yeah. Yeah, because where we were sitting, I mean, we could literally see the whole thing from where we were sitting up top.
Well, the commentators, when when Logan Paul did his forearm,
Mm-hmm.
he's like, okay, maybe AJ's been training him. He did the phenomenal forearm. And then somebody said, well, I don't know if I call it phenomenal. I call it the pretty good forearm. So the commentators, I mean, they had me just hooked. A lot of times the commentators, I'm like, y'all sound stupid. I'm not listening.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every once in a while something to come up and I'm like, yeah, just tell me the names of the move. Please don't tell me what a maneuver, thankfully.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
But when he went up to do that frog splash, I don't know if you noticed, he actually took off the turnbuckle screw covering so he could stand on it better.
Yeah. Yep. I noticed that.
I was like, why is he taking that off?
Yeah, that way he could plant his feet better. Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a good idea. And he
Mm-hmm.
nailed that frog. The commentators never said anything about it, but he got up and nailed the frog splash. And I'm like, that was another really good match. And I can't even say, well, the Miz carried him. No, I mean, that was a good match.
No, it was a good match. I mean, I feel like both guys pulled their weight, especially Logan Paul. I mean, he's in there with a veteran. I mean, the Miz is, a legitimate vet but now. And
people still don't like the Miz because of how he got his start. I'm like, look at what he's doing now. Seriously.
Yeah, I don't care how he got his start because I respect the fact that he put in the work to get better, to actually learn it and get better. It's just the Miz is doing his job. He's supposed to be this detestable, unlikable heel, and he does his job.
And now the next match, speaking of unlikable heels, Theory, Austin Theory,
he got booed out of that. He got booed out of that stadium.
I can see why, because I mean, everybody looks at him like it didn't matter if it may have been storyline, it may be legit. He's Vince's boy.
Well, from what I understand, it was legit. Vince was strapping the rocket to him. That's why he, won the U.S. title, won Money in the Bank.
Early.
Yeah, way earlier than he should have.
Well, I think he's starting because Vince isn't there in his ear anymore. So I'm thinking he's starting to listen to the other guys in the back who are kind of giving him guidance. Because I put in my notes, he's becoming a good chicken heel.
Yes. Yep.
He is starting to become really good at that because you need that because the Miz can do that really well.
Yeah. And you need that in pro wrestling. It's like the hero needs the villain to play off of, and if you've got a guy who is being sneaky but running away whenever he has to stand toe to toe with somebody, that makes for a good heel. That's like the recipe for a professional wrestling heel. So yeah, I give him that. I just think he was given too much too soon. I don't think he was ready for. I don't feel that that's his fault. I feel like that was the higher up's fault. They set him up to fail because he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready for that spot yet. And now that he's in that spot, it's like can he learn from this, or is he just going to crash and burn? And I feel like you said, he's learning
He is
what,
starting to,
he's starting to learn.
and I think, he has a ton of potential. I think he will be there one day.
Oh yeah.
And we've always said you need to push. When we say newer people, it doesn't mean push them too fast. They're straight out of school, and all
No,
of a sudden you're hitting the world title.
yeah, you've still got, there's levels to this.
Right.
You've still got steps you have to take to make them stars. I mean, you look at the biggest stars in the industry. The Rock didn't start out on top. Austin didn't start out on top. I mean, honestly, they were both given crap gimmicks that I'm surprised they were able to survive. The Rock gets Rocky Maivia, the white meat grinning baby face. Austin gets the ringmaster because Vince just saw him as a good hand. And that's what Vince saw Austin as, was just, he was a mechanic. He could get in there, work with anybody, make everybody else look good, but that's all he saw.
The ringmaster is such a generic,
yes,
Dollar General type of name.
And they gave him, they gave him the generic green tights. They had Ted DiBiase talking for him, even though Austin had proved early on in his career that he was a hell of a talker.
Yeah.
So, he proved that wrestling in Dallas at the Sportatorium, that he was a talker. So, giving him Ted DiBiase, nothing against Ted DiBiase, because he was a great talker, but Austin didn't need that.
Right.
Just let him be himself, just dialed up. And you see what happened once he became Stone Cold. It was like, here we go. Let's just start printing money, because
oh, and Theory, and this is why I say he definitely has the potential, and he's starting to become kind of a good chicken heel. Because, okay, first of all, my notes. Lashley's entrance was very fitting for the character. Loved his entrance on this.
Yes, scared to death out of Hope when the pyro went off, because she was not expecting it. And actually, I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting pyro for Lashley either. So when it went off, it didn't scare me, but Hope was almost climbed on top of me. Especially since we were so far up, we were closer to it. Oh. So when it went off, she was like, "Oh God!"
Well, when you're hearing them hitting, it sounds like timpani drums. Boom, boom,
yes.
Boom. And they see Lashley, I'm like, yes. Because Lashley's this big jacked up dude, or the way the commentary puts it. And I think I have comments about the commentary on almost every match just because of something they said. I think it was Corey Graves said his physique is not CGI.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I like that.
I like that. Yeah.
And
that's good.
Then Theory, of course, as soon as Lashley comes out, Champion comes out last. Bianca came out last.
Yeah.
So Lashley came out last. In Theory, attacked him with the
briefcase. Yep.
Before the match started. I'm like, you know what? That makes sense.
That's what you do.
That's what you do.
Because it's obvious that, Theory's not going to be able to stand up to Bobby Lashley physically. So it's like, try to take him out early before the bell even rings, and then try to get a quick pin and get out.
And that didn't work out for him.
No, it did not. Not at all.
Because my next one's, and I said, Lashley has ridiculous strength, which he does. And he has some just smooth power displays.
Yes.
In fact, the last, when Theory was doing his move and Lashley just basically caught him in a press.
Yeah.
And I was like, and just like, just
with no effort, just caught him and pressed him like he was at the gym lifting weights.
Yeah. And then just dropped him into the full Nelson.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that was so smooth.
Yeah.
That was just, and it was done.
And smart on Theory's part to just quickly tap out instead of staying in it, because, sometimes they have the heel. Oh, well, the heel's going to fight back and all that. No, if your truly detestable heel is going to hurry up and get out of that move and run with his tail between his legs.
Well, I remember Theory did try to leave at one point. He's like, what? I don't need this. I'm going home.
Yeah.
And Lashley got in front of him. No, get back in there. And
because Theory's like, I've got the briefcase. What do I need this for? I'm just going to go.
And the match was shorter, but that was probably a good thing because it
Yeah.
was supposed to be more. Well, Theory actually did get a lot of offense in.
Yeah, and Bobby Lashley sold.
Yeah,
He sold the offense. Bobby Lashley is frighteningly quick for a man that size.
yeah,
He is, I mean, like that. He's got that quick first step, like they always talk about in like football or basketball.
hmm
Bobby Lashley's got that step. He takes that one first step, and then he's 3/4 of the way across the ring
yeah.
by the time you realize it. And he's already hit the guy with a couple of moves, and you're like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
When did this happen?
And oddly enough, I know it's a weird kind of just kind of a sidebar. Anytime I hear somebody talk about somebody's first step, I always go back to there was somebody who graduated from our high school, and I believe it was a year ahead of us, who later on played college basketball at Murray.
Mm-hmm.
And there was somebody named Mike. I just leave it at that. Mike, what he used to say, man, he said he always had this great, just quick first step. And then we were watching Murray in the tournament. I think it was in '92. And so somebody we went to high school with was playing in the NCAA
playing in the
tournament.
tournament. Yeah.
And this guy, Lawrence Bussey, that's who it was.
Mm-hmm.
He did this move, and Mike said, "There it was, right there." He said, "Man, he said he's still got that first step."
Mm-hmm.
Because Mike, I mean, when he was somebody, he could do great sports analysis.
Oh yeah, he knew what he was talking about whenever he talked about sports. Yeah.
Yep. So anytime I hear first step, I always think of Lawrence Bussey.
Mm-hmm.
So great player in school because he was the star player on the team there in school.
Yep.
There for that year anyway. And one of his sisters was in one of my classes. I want to say, oddly enough, I think her name was Bessie Bussey.
Might have been.
Yeah, because there was actually quite a few Bussies, but that's the ones I remember. But anyway, so yeah, first step, Bobby Lashley, that dude, and like I said, that's not CGI, that's him.
Yeah, that's Lord, and he's just, I mean, the man just keeps getting better and better, and it's like, the older he gets, the better he gets, and it's like. Just
it's not fair. That's not fair to the rest of us.
No, I mean, because he's like, I think 44.
Yeah, he's close to our age. Because because my wife just turned 44 a few days ago, and she can't hear me right now because I'm waiting for her to hear me and come bust in the office with like.
It's like, no, I'm 25.
Yeah. So, but. Yeah, Bobby Lashley. I mean, he's just amazing. And if anybody's listened to it for a while, they already know we're big fans of Bobby Lashley.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when he got hurt and at hurt over in Saudi Arabia and the Elimination Chamber match, I mean, I think we're both like, oh, I want to say we both we had to shed a tear because I mean Bobby Lashley. I mean, he was world champion. He had to drop the belt because he actually legitimately got hurt. He was hurt before the match.
Yeah.
But he still went into the match.
Yeah, and I do like. I still think he needs to be in the main event, but I don't have an issue with him holding the United States title because he's bringing some importance back to the championship. You could tell that from Raw because Raw was built around a little mini tournament to see who was going to be the number one contender for the U.S. title. So they're showing They're showing that the title's important. They're not. It feels like for the first time in a long time, the U.S. title is not an afterthought.
Now, maybe since Triple H is the one calling the shots, maybe they'll do the same thing for the Intercontinental title because they're just crapping all over that one right now.
Yeah, right now, Walter is scheduled to defend the Intercontinental title against Shinsuke Nakamura, I think next week on SmackDown, because they've been in a feud the past few weeks. So that should be a good match, especially since Walter's going to hit you hard. Shinsuke is going to do the same. I mean, he's not called the King of Strong Style for nothing.
Right.
So that should be a pretty hard hitting match. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one.
The next match, Judgment Day. I don't like calling them the Judgment Day.
I don't either.
It doesn't flow smoothly. But Judgment Day, a faction or a band. Speaking of band names, go back to the very first match. they said something about Bianca's braid, and I'm thinking, man, that'd be a good name for a band. But
Bianca's
anyway,
braid. Yeah.
Bianca, I'm like, that would be, huh? But anyway, so back to this one. Yeah, Judgment Day. There probably is already a band named Judgment Day. It's probably a doom metal band. But
Probably.
yeah, I mean, I think that'd be a good name for it. And the song they had, is that an Alter Bridge song they're using?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm like, listen to it, go, man, that sounds okay. And then all of a sudden I heard the voice, and I'm like, hey, that's Alter Bridge. That sounds like Alter
Yeah.
Bridge. So
Yep.
But I like Judgment Day's entrance.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it really set the tone for that match. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be good. And you know, all the ones in Judgment Day, they're all three good.
Yeah.
You know, the three currently, because you know they're going to add somebody else.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
don't know who yet, even though I have a feeling we already can kind of see who they keep alluding is going to get added.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to add Dominic. But the Mysterios, I mean, as a team, their moves are smooth the way they do their
Yep.
double teams. I'm like, and you can't just say, well, it's father and son. No, you don't see a lot of father and son tag teams.
No.
You know, for whatever you may have second generation wrestlers, but it's not necessarily them tagging.
Yeah.
But was Finn Balor's right arm injured before this match?
Not that I know of.
Because did you notice they started working his right arm?
Yeah, I noticed that. Which
Yeah.
that he wears a like a compression sleeve on that arm, but he's done that for a while. So
Okay.
as far as I know, he hasn't had any injuries. If so, they're keeping it very quiet, but I don't think so. I haven't seen any reports where he had any injury going into the match.
I was just kind of wondering, I was like, why are they working his right arm? Then I was like, well, wait a minute, because Dominic learned the lucha style.
Mm-hmm.
And lucha, you know, of course, out of Mexico, they work the right side instead of the left side.
Yep.
Nobody knows why. It just happened to be. Well,
Yeah.
I've actually explained to non-wrestling fans. They're like, why did they do that? I'm like, I don't know. It's just
just
one of the
how
things as a wrestler. If you're following all wrestling, you just need to know. Especially if you're involved in the business, you need to know. Down in Mexico, they work
Yep.
the right side of the body, or the way they said they work it from the left, and everybody else in the world works it from the right.
Yeah.
Which means they work on the left side of the opponent.
Yeah.
But I saw it, I was like, that's all. I'm like, huh? Have they been advertising an injury that I've been missing because I've just been out of pocket for the past couple of weeks?
No,
But-
they never. There was no storyline injury or anything, so must have just been how just
It just
how
happened.
Dominic. Yeah.
Also, but a heel Finn Balor works better when he's in a faction rather than alone.
Solo. Yeah. That's what worked so well when he was in the Bullet Club. When he started the Bullet Club in Japan, he was the leader of the Bullet Club, and
Right.
he worked great in that faction.
And Finn Balor, man, he's just good. Period.
Yeah, I mean he's tremendous either way, but yeah, he works really well in a faction.
I think face, he's better solo. Heel, he's better in a faction. And honestly, I prefer a heel Finn Balor, because if somebody's really good, I just want to see them turn heel. And you know who would agree with me?
Ted
would probably agree with me. I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and speaking of catching up on I need to listen to his. I've missed like at least the last one he put out.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to catch up with him. So, Ted, I apologize. I haven't commented on any of your podcasts, and because I haven't listened to them, but it's not because I don't want to. It's because I'm still playing catch up. That's one of the things about going on vacation and of course helping your kid move, 5 states away, is you miss out on a lot of your normal routines.
Yeah,
so,
you're out of the loop for a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. But I did like how they brought the chair in. I'm like, if you're going to have a no DQ match, have a no DQ scenarios. Yeah. Gotta have some more of this water. But I don't know if you caught this when they looked like they were going to do the double 619 and then Rhea Ripley grabbed
the legs. Yes.
It would not have worked anyway because they were on the wrong sides.
Yep.
Dominic's left-handed.
Yeah.
So he always goes on the left side whenever they're doing that. But if he was actually on the right side.
Yeah.
And I said before, that's just one of those weird things I notice about the differences between right-handed and left-handed wrestlers, how they do certain moves.
Yeah.
And it's like a right-handed and left-handed batter.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know which side of the plate, okay, a left-handed batter, or at least somebody who bats left, is going to stand
Hmm.
on that particular side of the plate. Because Joey Votto, he plays first base for the Reds.
Hmm.
He's right-handed, but he bats left. So, um, which is weird, but anyway. But then later on, of course, they did hit the double 619 after Edge came out. Now, that my only issue really with Edge coming out, it's a good moment, but was it necessary?
Yeah, I think the theatrics of it was unnecessary. I liked it. Not saying that. I
Right.
enjoyed the entrance and all that, and the fire and all that. You had the brood elements without, you know, without using that too often, because he's done that, a couple of times in his, since his comeback, and you don't want to burn that bridge, so to speak, because
Right.
everybody loves the brood entrance. So if you can keep it, you know, few and far between, it will mean a lot more. So I enjoyed the entrance, but it would have worked better if he had have just either rushed the ring just with no music or anything, because my issue with
Like AJ.
run-ins,
Like
yeah,
AJ.
like AJ,
Yeah.
because my issue with run-ins is it messes with the flow of the match if you have wrestlers standing there waiting on somebody to run in. Like, and they do it, all companies do it now. It's like if there's some kind of brawl or something and somebody's kind of going to run in, just let them run in, not play their music and have the heel or the face stop and stand there staring and waiting on them. It's like it would have worked better for Edge's interference if he had just rushed the ring
Yep.
and attacked them instead of, I mean, and I get why they did the theatrics, it's pay-per-view, big crowd, you know, give them something cool to see. But storyline wise, I think it would have just worked better if he'd have just charged the ring and jumped him, or came out of the crowd. Really coming out of
Right.
the crowd would have worked even better.
But he came out and he attacked um, Finn. He attacked Damian Priest. He didn't really counter Rhea Ripley because you figured he would have come out there just to keep her from interfering, but he didn't. He came in, interfered, helped the Mysterios win, and so that actually kind of buried them a little bit because now it looks like they couldn't win the match on their own. But the match itself was still good.
Yeah, the match was
Yeah.
good. Rey Mysterio is still killing it.
Another guy, he's up in his 40s,
I mean,
and
yeah, he's late 40s, because I think he said in the interview that he doesn't want to wrestle past 50. He said that's the point where he's going to stop. Hope had an interesting point. One of her best friends is married to a Hispanic gentleman, and she said, Hope said that in the Hispanic community, like in America, a lot of guys start feeling their age about 40. And they start kind of, especially if they've played sports or stuff like that, and they kind of wind down. In the Hispanic community, 50 is the mark where
okay,
guys start to kind of feel their age, and they're like, okay, I got to wind this down because this is the stopping point, so to speak. And Rey Mysterio, and I told her, I said that is very ironic because Rey Mysterio said 50 was when he wanted to stop. He said he's not going to wrestle past 50.
oh, I think for me it was like 27.
Yeah.
Honestly, I started really feeling it and I was in my 30s because at that point, I mean, I was working out a lot. And yes, I was in the Air Force, and yes, I still worked out a lot. The Air Force has always been thought of, oh, they never run. No, I did a lot of running. I did a lot of other, because I was trying to make sure I passed the PT test so I could continue to be in the Air Force, so I could continue to have a job until I hit my 20 years, and then I could retire and get the pension. But, oh, I definitely, you know, even if he does stop at 50, because I mean, and I get that that could possibly be a cultural thing. I get it, but for him personally, he may not. He may go. I could still go because Rey Mysterio is. I mean,
yeah, because you look at some of the guys that are wrestling in their late 40s, early 50s. Like, use the Undertaker for example. When Undertaker was in his late 40s, he was wrestling 2 or 3 times a year.
at most.
And he was, he was literally a shell of himself. And I hate to say that, he's absolutely a legend in the business,
Mhm.
but he was a shell of himself and should have stopped a long time ago. But you don't get that with Rey Mysterio. He is still,
No.
and it's not like he's just playing the greatest hits either. He's not just coming out hitting all of his spots and that's it. He's still innovating. He's still
Mhm.
doing creative moves in the ring in his late 40s. That just speaks to the talent and the, longevity of Rey Mysterio. And this is a guy who's had, this is a guy who's had multiple knee surgeries in his career, and he's still able to perform at this level this late in his career. Because I mean, he's been in the WWE for 20 years. That's not counting his time in WCW, uh, AAA, ECW, all
Yeah.
that. He's got a 30+ year career, and he's still going better than guys, half his age.
And you're talking about even if Rey Mysterio were to come out and just do like the greatest hits, his version of a chop a knee drop and a woo.
Yeah.
His greatest hits are
Yeah.
a Hurricane
Yeah.
Rana off the top rope, the 619, which takes a lot of precision to be able to
Yeah.
do that, and some of the other just ridiculous moves that only Rey Mysterio can do.
Like the
And
snap Hurricane Rana into the pin.
yes,
Like Rey Mysterio's greatest hits are better than some guys' entire moveset.
yeah, and so that's why I think Rey Mysterio he's definitely a Hall of Famer.
Oh,
That's coming.
absolutely.
They really don't do like first ballot type things, but
Yeah.
if they had that, he'd be
If there, yeah,
he'd
if
be
there was a
unanimous.
such thing, oh yeah, if there was a such thing, he would definitely be first ballot Hall of Fame.
You know what? That's actually I just not thought of an idea for what are some of the changes that could happen now with
Mm-hmm.
BKM gone, Triple H
Yep.
kind of run things. But anyway, Hall of Fame maybe another one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that match it was still. I mean, we knew it was going to be a good match
Oh yeah.
because it's just kind of the same match that they've been having. Just dialed up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's no DQ and because Edge returned, Rhea Ripley got involved. They couldn't disqualify him. I mean, it's a no DQ match.
Exactly.
I'm glad to see Rhea Ripley back. I want because when they did the pre-match video, wasn't it Ray's daughter who was also kind of involved in those little skirmishes backstage?
Yes, and which is kind of a full circle thing because during the pandemic when they were doing this is before before the video wall, what they call it, the Thunderdome.
Yeah.
Or yeah,
Yep.
before the Thunderdome days when they were just filming everything in the Performance Center, they had a romance with it kind of bled into the Thunderdome era, but they had this romance with Buddy Murphy and
They did. That's
Aaliyah,
right. I forgot.
Rey Mysterio's daughter, his real life daughter. And so they had that little romance, and then they kind of dropped that angle. Now in real life, Rhea Ripley is dating
Buddy Murphy.
Buddy Murphy. So it kind of comes full circle with Aaliyah and Rhea Ripley face to face.
And wasn't he also engaged to Alexa Bliss at one point?
Yes, he was. Yep.
And now, granted, she just got married to somebody else, and
yeah,
she wasn't on this pay-per-view, and that's a shame.
Yeah.
But
she said that they are still like really good friends though. She said they didn't like the split was amicable and they get along, they still get along well. It's just, things didn't work out. But yeah.
Now the next match, and this is another one with a non-wrestler. Now, granted, a very good athlete, but a non-wrestler and a natural wrestler. Pat McAfee and Baron Corbin or Happy Corbin or whatever Corbin.
Yeah, whatever Corbin he is this week. Yeah. This was Pat McAfee's entrance was awesome. Like the theme music that they gave him is perfect for fans to get behind because it's just a continuous chant, and we all got louder and louder as as the music
Okay.
went on. Um, but Pat McAfee is another one that you can tell he has respect for pro wrestling. He's put in work, because I saw what he did in NXT. He had a couple matches in NXT, did really well, better than I expected. He had a good match with Theory at WrestleMania. The match with Corbin was excellent. Some people were like, well, he kind of missed this spot and that spot. For me, if a non-professional misses a couple of spots, if that's all you can say about their performance, then they've done a hell of a job. Because
he was not the only wrestler on the night missing spots. I can
exactly,
tell you
and
that.
yeah, and it's like this guy. This is his second. This is his fourth professional match. He had 2 matches in NXT and 2 matches on the main roster. The dude is doing like backflips off the top rope, landing on his feet, smoothly. It didn't look clumsy or anything. Dude is jumping flat-footed from the mat to the top rope to do the superplex. I mean, Pat McAfee is a tremendous athlete. And people are like, oh, well, he was just a kicker in the NFL. I don't care what position you play in the NFL. You have to be a good athlete for them to be willing to put you on their team. They're not just going to pick any dude off the street and be like, oh, well, he can kick a ball, so let's put him on. Let's put him on the Colts. And
I'll tell everybody. Okay, first of all, he wasn't the kicker; he was a punter.
Yeah,
the punters, they get drilled. There's more
exactly.
chance of them getting drilled.
Yeah, but you hear people say, I've seen it on Twitter. Oh, he was just a kicker, and it's like, no, it was a lot more than that.
No, because you can't automatically say just because it's the punter or the kicker that they are automatically avoiding getting hit. No, because okay, on a punt or a kickoff, they will say, okay, they only have the punter or the kicker to beat. It used to be, oh, okay, that's a touchdown. Not anymore.
Mm-mm.
Because Pat McAfee, I mean, yeah, they showed him he's very legit. Because the kickers, like, okay, the Grammaticas, Martin and his brother, I can't think of.
I can't either.
Yeah, they played for Tampa and Arizona, respectively. Those little guys, yeah, they would get just ran over a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But then you had somebody like Sebastian Janikowski, Seabass. If Seabass hit you, you were going down.
Oh, yes. Those smaller guys were getting trucked. But, yeah, Seabass was not getting trucked. No.
Oh, and this is a guy who didn't grow up playing American football, because he was, I believe he was Norwegian.
Yeah.
But he grew up playing a lot of soccer, so he had the leg. And Pat McAfee, I mean, his background is not just football. I mean, he has other. He has, if I remember right, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, he had other athletic ventures in his background as well. And he works at whatever he does.
Yep.
And he wanted to be a varsity wrestler, and he wanted to be a good wrestler, not just, hey, okay, I'll do this every once in a while. And yeah, he had a couple slip ups because you're saying when he jumped up on the top rope, he landed on his knees. I couldn't do that.
I couldn't either.
I mean, I could try to jump on the bottom rope and I'd still miss.
Yeah, him jumping flat-footed to the top rope and slipping. I mean, there's no shame in that. I've seen world-traveled professional wrestlers slip off the top rope. It happens. If you get up there and your feet don't plant. I mean, people have to think. These people are planting their feet on a cable.
And actually, for them, it's ropes.
Yeah,
it's actual ropes.
That's right. WCW used cables. Yeah, WWE uses ropes. So you're having to plant your feet sturdy on ropes.
And they're
and it's not like you're planting your feet like on my desk. You're planting them on ropes that are moving the entire time. So it's like, no, he is a tremendous athlete, and it was a good match. I enjoyed it.
He countered Baron Corbin. He does the thing because the commentators. This is another one of the things I really wish you could hear the commentary, because this one was one that they were talking about on like TikTok and Twitter and everything else, was when Corey Graves told Michael Cole, "I liked you better when you weren't allowed to have an opinion."
Yeah, and Michael Cole said, "Yeah, well, that's changed. A lot of
Yeah,
things have
a lot of
changed."
things changed. He said, "Yeah, because there was a pause." He put in my notes, "Pause. Things change. A lot of things change." And I'm like,
Yeah,
um, but when Corbin, that movie does, and you could tell I think he must have liked Boss Man back in the day because
yes,
the quarter he slides out, comes around the ring post and back in, boom.
yeah,
McAfee countered that. He was waiting
yes,
for it.
mm-hmm, yep,
So he's been doing his homework as far as that goes, and of course, obviously, Corbin knew he was going to do it because he probably told him,
yeah,
okay, do that thing, where you around the corner and corner stuff.
yeah,
And he countered it. And the match itself, like you said, was really good. McAfee is one of the things the commentators were talking about, the humidity.
mm-hmm,
And at one point, I could see, like, in the lights, I didn't know if it was smoke or what. I meant to ask you, was there a lot of humidity there? Like,
yes, yes.
okay,
There was a lot of humidity there. It was still, it was late in the show before it really started to cool off any. It was pretty, yeah, it
okay,
was pretty humid out there that day.
because yeah, like I said, at one point you could actually see something because
Mm-hmm.
those of us who've lived in the South, we know a lot about humidity, and you
Yeah,
see, like, oh, just like I can smell rain when it's going to happen. Just like,
yeah.
oh, it's going to rain. How do you know I can smell
Mm-hmm.
it? What do you mean you smell it? Oh, well, I
You can
mean,
smell
you can
it.
smell it. I mean, and when McAfee went up and he hit that swanton, or the way they call it, the swanton boski or something like that in the commentary, because he's, oh, he's Italian. I'm like, what? I'm like, don't ever do that again.
Yeah,
That just sounded dumb. But when he almost didn't hit that,
yeah,
and that would have been a bad one, a really bad bust. But the commentators, when they mentioned the humidity, because he looked down at the covering on the turnbuckle screw, and like he was going to remove it, and kind of like the way Logan Paul did.
mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking he probably should have, because when he went, his foot didn't have enough grip because it was on that,
Yeah.
and
And it
that
was yeah, and that humidity, I'm sure it was because plus all the lights and everything, I'm sure, I'm sure there was moisture on the
hmm
turnbuckles and the ropes, and because it was, I mean, it was hot, you know, for us in the in the stands. I can't imagine being right there, on the floor with all those lights on you and everything,
yeah,
and the heat from the crowd.
yes, oh
You
yeah,
know,
because everybody's breathing your way,
yeah,
which doesn't sound like a lot, but no, you have that much, and it's
yeah,
all being directed that way.
hmm,
Um, but when any seasoned professional wrestler, when coming across that kind of conditions, would have had the same outcome.
hmm,
Because I mean,
yep,
he landed on his back. You can see on the camera. I mean, he hit hard
yeah,
because he hit Corbin, but then still came flat on his back on the arena floor. And I'm like,
yeah,
ooh, okay. And but you could tell he looked down at the covering like he wanted to remove it, but then all of a
hmm,
sudden he didn't. And I'm like, I wonder if they said something to Logan Paul about that, because to me that was one of the smartest things I've ever seen
yeah,
anybody in the ring do. Because he didn't do it because he was trying to hit somebody their face on that. He did it because, hey, I don't want to slip and break my neck.
hmm.
No, and but the finisher, I did put in my notes. The finisher itself was kind of sloppy, but he's still impressive.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I
Uh,
mean, you can a sloppy finish can happen to anybody,
mhm,
but you can be more forgiving of it for somebody who doesn't do this full time and
right.
gave you a good match
hmm
before the finish. If they're just letting somebody carry them through the match, not putting in the work, and then have a sloppy finish, then you can definitely criticize them. But for this being his own only his fourth professional match, and
It didn't look like it.
it didn't look like it,
No.
and he gave you a good match. Yeah, the finish was a little sloppy, but it was still a good finish, and it was
hmm
still a good match.
And one of the things when they were really pushing these two guys, they were teammates when they were on the Colts.
Hmm.
One thing I just thought was kind of funny about that was because, well, you're playing in the Titan Stadium, but you're pushing at their Colts. They were mates on the Colts, which are division rivals,
Yeah,
but yeah, it kind of is what it is. And they were the two guys were saying they were roommates. But
Yeah, that's what they used in the story because Pat McAfee even said that in a little interview thing on SmackDown that they were roommates when they were playing for the Colts.
yeah, and now after the match was over, when he went over, he gave the crotch shot to the
Yeah,
Graves.
yeah,
That was kind of funny. But then he grabbed like a beer or something like that from a fan. He was drinking a little bit, and this
yeah.
is some more of the commentary that you were missing,
Hmm.
um, because Graves said something about drinking on the job, and Cole, and I may actually have their roles reversed, but Cole said something about, um, oh, Graves said something about, yeah, I get in trouble for drinking on the job. Cole said, yeah, but you were drinking in the airport. So, um,
Yeah, because they said that Michael Cole and Pat McAfee are actually like really good friends, like
right,
behind the scenes, which you can tell because you can tell they have good chemistry together
yeah,
on commentary. And it's not just two professionals having good chemistry. You can tell that they get along personally really well.
yeah. Now the next thing was the Drew McIntyre promo. He came in there, he kind of got the crowd. I mean, you were there for it, but
Yeah, he kind of got the crowd hype, but I could have done without it. I mean, it's
yeah,
just, I mean, it was what it was. I mean, he came out and he, hyped up the crowd. He
you got a kid named
talked,
Colt involved, which
yeah,
was kind of funny.
talk,
The kid's name was Colt.
yeah, talked about being the number one contender, how he was going to, take the titles, in Cardiff. But that's that's something that could have just been kind of left off. And I say that because there was a match that got cut later in the show. Time got cut for a match later in the show because Logan Paul and The Miz went longer than was scheduled.
Ah, okay.
So for me, they should have cut the Drew McIntyre hype thing and added that time to the match, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But
Yeah, because all he did was come out, hey, comes watch the match at Cardiff. And by the way, yeah, aren't you getting excited? He said for the first ever Roman and Brock match.
I did catch that, and
I'm
then
like,
and then he was like,
in
Nashville,
Nashville, first
yeah,
falls, last man standing. So I'm thinking they told him go ahead and say the first, and he called himself after he said it because his face was like,
he's
wait a
like,
minute,
wait a minute, this is number 7, actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I got the credit for okay, we're gonna advertise the next pay per view. Okay,
Hmm.
great, a premium live event, and it's going to be in Cardiff in Wales, which by the way, yeah, it's part of the UK, it's part of Great Britain. Why don't they ever say it's Wales?
Yeah.
Because somebody
Because
may not.
then they can't push it as being in Drew McIntyre's backyard when he's like 3 countries away
It's
from
not
there.
even. It's not even in his. It's his neighbor's yard. Come on,
Yeah, exactly.
Drew McIntyre is Scottish.
But
He's
that's how
not
they're pushing
Welsh.
it. They're like he's going to have somewhat of a home field advantage. That's not his home field.
No, and you got to go if you're even if you're you. Yes, okay, you could drive from Scotland to Wales, but you're having to drive through England to get there.
Hmm.
I know. I've okay.
It's like I've
We
done
we've
it.
done it. I mean, we drove from England up to Scotland, came back to where we were living in England. 2 weeks later, we drove to Wales for a weekend.
Hmm.
So I've been done both, and both are beautiful countries, by the way.
Hmm.
I want to throw that out there. But yeah, he's not Welsh; he's Scottish.
Yeah,
And they're very, very both of them are very, very proud of.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
you
like
know,
it's like you hype him up as the Scottish warrior. Your pay per views in Wales, but yeah, but they just don't say Wales, and it's like I guess they figure people don't. I guess they figure either people never took geography in school, or if they didn't, that people don't have access to Google and can't look up where Scotland have the distance between Scotland and Wales is.
you know what? I'm gonna do
So
that. I'm pulling up a map
you know what I'm
right
saying? It's
now.
like they act like that. I still don't like the fact that they want to insult our intelligence as fans. And it's like, we know more than you think we do. We don't blindly just believe everything you tell us.
All right. Let me see. Okay, not on that one, obviously. Whoop. Right, you know what? I could just do something. Yeah, but you're having to drive, even at your shortest drive. You know, you're still going to be spending a few hours in England driving.
Right.
You know, so it's not like it's right next door. It's literally, it's not his backyard. It's his neighbor's 2 houses away backyard.
Yeah. Yeah. It's his neighbor's yard, but that neighbor happens to live 2 or 3 blocks away.
Yeah, you know, and they get along
Yeah.
because they don't like the neighbor in between them.
Right.
But I don't know. Yeah. By the way, I do recommend if you ever get a chance, definitely go over and visit. You know, I mean, I was fortunate enough I actually lived there in England for 6.5
Mhm.
years, and you know, so I was able to actually visit both Scotland and Wales.
Yeah.
You know, and actually quite a few places in England as well. Um, but anyway, we'll talk about geography another time. So, like that's another rabbit hole I could just go down and just talk forever. The next one, the Usos and the Street Profits.
Excellent match is to
Yeah,
be expected between these two teams. I figured the Usos would win it. I mean, I would have been happy if the Street Profits had won. I kind of think this was their. I feel like this is their last shot at the tag titles, though. I feel like they kind of got to
yeah.
move
I,
on
I,
from
I,
this.
I caught that vibe too.
Yeah, I feel like this is their last shot. Again, excellent match. Montez Ford is a absolute superstar in the making. I thought the split was coming at the end because the look on Montez Ford's face when he's sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm like, I even told Hope, I'm like, he's gonna turn, but he didn't. I was really surprised that they didn't pull the trigger on the turn. But I did see on TikTok, and I can't remember the TikToker's name. When I go back, it's in my likes. So when I go back and find it, I'll be sure to give him a shout out on the show. He had a good idea though. Nobody wants to boo Montez, so
No, they don't.
Montez can't be the one to turn because nobody wants to boo Montez. Montez is over as a babyface, and it's only going to get bigger as a babyface. Nobody wants to boo him. If the turn's going to happen, it's going to have to be Dawkins that turns. They did an angle on Monday on Raw where they were both trying to get a match with Seth Rollins because Seth Rollins was running his mouth and everything. So they were going to do rock, paper, scissors. They started out, Montez Ford tossed his microphone to Dawkins, grabbed the referee, and ran down to the ring and took the match. Which, if you're building a story of a turn, you could use that as Dawkins is fed up with Montez taking all the spotlight. Even if he's not doing it on purpose, from Dawkins' point of view, it's like, I'm a star too. I'm part of this team, but all the focus is on Montez. So
Mm-hmm.
you could kind of get a heel turn that way. That to me, that's a very logical way to do it, and not have Montez be the heel because nobody's going to want to boo him.
Well, not only that, but this is actually something that Vince always tried to hide things for no reason. Everybody knows that Montez and Bianca Belair are married.
Exactly.
So
why would you have him be a heel and her be a face?
Yeah,
when you could have them both be faces. You
Yep.
know,
I mean, that makes more sense to have the married couple on the same side, more or less.
Yeah, and Dawkins be the heel. Plus, you add in the fact that Dawkins has been with WWE since like 2014. Like he was there in the early days of NXT.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Tez came in later. They ended up putting them together as the Street Profits. But you could also add in for Dawkins' heel turn that I've been here since 2014 and I still haven't been getting these opportunities that Montez is getting.
Yep.
Just build resentment.
The jealousy, resentment angle is always a good one that could fit.
Always works.
Yep. Now, as far as this match goes, like I said, I thought it was a really good match. We expected to be a good match.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I thought it could have been better because they could have put this match on Raw and just removed Jeff Jarrett, and it still would have been, because they've been overperforming on Raw, basically, is what it comes down to.
That's a lot of the problem is they overperform on Raw, and then when it gets to the pay-per-view, it's like, what else can they do that they haven't already done that we haven't already seen?
Right.
So I feel like
they're now, them having a pedestrian match for them is still way above everybody else. And
absolutely. But yeah, it could have been better. I think it would have been a better match, and it was an excellent match. I'm not saying that, but I think it would have been a better match if Jeff Jarrett wasn't the referee, if they'd had a standard referee, because there was no real reason for Jeff Jarrett to be the referee other than he's from Nashville.
Yeah. And
I mean, there was no storyline reason. He had no allegiance to the Street Profits or no allegiance to the Bloodline. So just dropping him in as a referee, 2 weeks before the pay-per-view.
That's what I was going to ask, was when did Jeff Jarrett get added?
Yeah, it was a couple of weeks before the pay-per-view.
That's still late in the game. That still makes zero sense to put him in.
Because they kept having the back and forth of, because remember at Money in the Bank, Montez's shoulder was up.
Right.
The referee was out of position and counted 3. Then a couple weeks later on Raw, they had a match with Dawkins and Jimmy Uso. Jimmy's shoulder was up. Referee was out of position. Counted 3. Dawkins wins the match. So they had that going back and forth, which is the story of referees always being out of position. So they announced a guest referee, and everybody's speculating on who it is, and then it's Jeff Jarrett for no reason. Like I said, other than he's from Nashville, and that's where the pay-per-view was.
So because the referees we normally have, they keep honking it up. Let's have somebody who's not a referee be the special referee.
Mm-hmm.
And and they knew Jeff Jarrett was going to be in Nashville, besides the fact that he lives there, because he was also going to be there for the very next night. Which, by the way, that's also Jeff Jarrett's last match. He's actually kind of said that too. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
Now he may wrestle later, because Jeff Jarrett, he's not that much older than we are. So, he could still, and that man's been through a lot of hard times. Like real hard times.
Mm-hmm.
He lost his wife to cancer.
Yeah.
And then so he decided to take Kurt Angle's wife.
Mm-hmm.
So he's also been through other.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't get the point of having him in this match, and I thought he was kind of annoying at the beginning. 5. When I tell you 5, you move. And
yeah, he kind of had that Jesse Ventura vibe from the first SummerSlam.
They talked about that on the commentary.
Did they really?
Yes, they did. They said that, who the first person was? It was Jesse Ventura. And wow. So you need to go back and actually, you know what? Don't watch it. Just put on your headphones, just listen while you're doing work or something. You can hear all these things. Could you hear it when Montez looked at whichever Uso was in there, because they're twins and I can't tell them apart? He said, "Yeah, what's up, Uso?" And did you catch that?
Yeah, I caught that.
Okay, yeah, because I knew he said it kind of loud, and I tried picking you out of the crowd, by the way. And I don't know which dot you were. But,
yeah.
I
was this one here.
Yeah, the very, very first match, they probably could have had you on there. I probably could have spotted you, because I just judged where you're sitting. But you know how for the pay-per-views, they put like the graphics, and they
block off the top of
Yes. Yeah. Guess where you were? You were behind the WWE belt, women's belt.
Yeah, I was behind the graphic. Yeah.
Yeah. So it could have been like a Mike Wazowski moment.
Yeah,
I was on TV.
I was on TV.
So
you didn't see me, but I was there.
He was there. Dawkins, when he did his dive over the top rope, I liked the fact that it was not in the aisle. It was actually on the side.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
fact, it would have been on the side you were on, come to think
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And the Usos, they were getting face responses from the fans.
Oh yeah. Every time like the Usos came out and like everybody that was in my section was absolutely cheering the Usos and even booing the Street Profits because they were so behind the Usos. It's not like
Yeah.
they really disliked the Street Profits, but they really wanted the Usos to win. And when the Usos won, yeah, that arena, a lot of that arena erupted. I mean, the Usos are they're over.
I didn't like the whole, okay, Montez hit his splash, where the one he jumps about 20 feet above
Yeah.
the ring and comes down.
Yeah.
That's going to hurt. I mean, it really is. But
Oh yeah.
him not
And I
getting,
like that he sells it. That's why like I always
Yeah.
appreciated Rob Van Dam when he did it. He always sold his midsection like this hurts.
because it probably did.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. But I mean, you've seen guys hit the frog splash and not sell the impact of it.
Yeah, because I
And-
mean, they arch back, and so you're hitting
Yeah.
the prone, and you're hitting right along your midsection.
Yeah.
So yeah, it will hurt.
Now Eddie didn't sell it like they did because Eddie's frog splash was different.
Yeah,
His was different than Van Dam's, and his was more of a like he would go up and he'd be in the ball, and
But
then
he
he
would-
would pop out real quick,
yeah,
and the opponent took more of the impact than he did. Like with the other ones, it's like they're taking just as much, if not more.
and I just didn't like that was the reason why Montez didn't get the 3 count. Oh, he hurt his ribs, and then he starts mouthing off at Jarrett. So it looks like they are trying to turn him heel, but I agree with what you were saying earlier. They shouldn't turn him heel.
Yeah.
If they're going to split up the Street Profits, just say, okay, look, we couldn't get it. Boom, let's go our separate
Yeah,
ways.
we just couldn't get it. We couldn't get it done. What else do they have to do as a tag team? They've won tag team. They've won tag titles on all 3 brands. So there's nothing else to do. So just be like, okay, we're gonna go our separate ways and see. Try our hands at singles.
I'm gonna go make more commercials with Bianca, and
Yeah.
you do
You do your
whatever
thing.
it is. You do your thing,
Yeah.
man. And by the way, if I do turn heel, I think me and Lacey Evans, we're going to call our team the Marines. Which I still don't know what to think of it, because the way they're doing with her now, all of a sudden she's like, I'm better than everybody because of the Marine. It's like, that's not what Marines do.
Yeah, I think a lot of that was Vince, though. I'm hoping that.
So I'm
with
hoping
him gone,
they'll dial it back.
yeah, they'll dial some of that back, because that's not going to get a good response when
Mm-mm.
you have a lot of people in the military that are fans of WWE, and
Mhm.
having her be an elitist type former member of the military is not a good look.
No, she was a Marine, once a Marine.
Yeah.
Except for Randy
Yeah.
Orton. Randy Orton can't say that.
No, of course, he was dishonorably discharged. So,
No, he got a bad conduct.
Oh.
Close, he got,
yeah, close enough. I
close
mean,
enough. Yeah, it's just one step above.
Yeah.
But he got what they call the big chicken dinner, BCD. So, because he didn't do jail time, that's the only thing that kept him from getting a dishonorable.
Right.
He did
Okay.
get court-martialed, and because he could not stay out of trouble,
Yeah.
and so
And because he just went AWOL and was like,
yeah,
no, this is not for me. I'm going home.
yeah. I mean, and usually it probably started as a dishonorable and was upgraded to bad
Mhm.
conduct. That's usually the way it works.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the next thing was, speaking of Randy Orton, Riddle and Rollins having a dust up.
I missed that. That was the only thing on the show that I missed, because we ended up leaving our seats because I had to go pick up this shirt before
gotcha.
before the thing closed, because you had like 30 minutes to pick it up after the event was over. But with so many people there was no way I was going to make it down there
Gotcha.
in 30 minutes. So we left early, and I heard Rollins's music go off, but it was like I heard his music go off, and then that was really about it. And I asked some people, and they were like, it was pretty much nothing. It was like basically like a Raw angle.
Yeah,
that
they came
stuck on
out
the
and
pay-per-view.
pop, and then it was just dumb. I even put, okay, they're still pushing a feud. Why are you using a pay-per-view time to push the feud? But
Yeah.
There's no point of this to be in the pay-per-view. That was my notes. That was it. That was a tweet. That was it.
I mean, yeah, there's no point. That's again, that was another segment that could have been cut and added to, since we're here, added to the next match, which got severely cut because Logan Paul and The Miz
ran over.
ran over. So Logan Paul and The Miz ran over. So they cut Liv Morgan and Ronda Rousey for the SmackDown Women's title.
So that match should have been a lot longer than just
that match was scheduled.
Minutes.
Yeah,
okay.
That match was scheduled to be a lot longer. What happened in the match was still supposed to happen, from what I understand. It was just supposed to take longer to get there.
Okay,
but that we had a match that ran over. It happens, especially live. Live TV. It happens. But they could have cut the Drew McIntyre spot and the Riddle and Seth Rollins spot and gave that time to the SmackDown Women's Championship match. I mean, it's a World Championship match. Why would you cut that match?
And with Drew McIntyre come out, okay, that's pushing the next event.
That's pushing the next event.
Okay.
I feel it's unnecessary, but I get why they did that. Yeah.
This one was just pushing one feud.
One angle that they could have done on Raw if they wanted to keep pushing it.
Right. And it was like, okay, Riddle, he's like, I'm not medically cleared. All right, go home. Go with that. There's a dude smoking crack outside a hotel.
Yeah.
Go find him. And tell him to go rethink his life. I mean, or something. Look, instead, you're taking up time on our TV. And I like Riddle, but there was no point in this.
But you're taking time away, you're taking time away from Liv Morgan, who has busted her butt for 2 years, building herself up to get this opportunity. It's her first title defense on pay-per-view. It's her first, she just won the title at Money in the Bank by pinning Ronda Rousey, which how many people in wrestling can say I pinned Ronda Rousey?
Like 3, and that's about it. And she's 2 of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But instead they cut their match, which, rushed everything. I do like the fact that Ronda's turned heel, obviously, which I feel like
I like her better as a heel.
I like her better as a heel. I don't like the grinning. Of course, I've said this before on the show. I don't like the grinning baby face. Especially it doesn't fit her. It doesn't fit her. It'd be like having Brock Lesnar be out there being a grinning baby face all the time. Now, Cowboy Brock, I'm fine with, because when he's grinning, he's like legitimately laughing because you can tell he's just having a good time with this. But just the Ronda Rousey coming out and being the grinning, waving baby face, and then the bell rings, and then you're supposed to believe she's this lethal killer, which we know she is. We know from her MMA career that she is. But the casual fan that they're trying to pull in that doesn't know about her MMA career is just going to be like, well, wasn't she grinning just a minute ago and all nice to the crowd, and now she's snarling and beating the crap out of this woman over here? I just think she's better as a heel. I think her attitude suits a heel better. Her skill set suits a heel better. And I like that they're leaning into that. I also like the fact how they finished it. I like how Liv Morgan was trapped in the armbar, but Ronda wasn't paying attention and had her shoulders down. And the ref counted 3, and from one angle, it looked like Liv tapped after the 3 count. Another angle, it looked like Liv tapped before the 3 count, but the ref was out of position.
It was between 2 and 3.
Okay.
Yep.
But it leaves that open. Ronda gets suspended for attacking officials, because she attacked the referee, so she gets storyline suspended. But you have your built-in story. Liv gets to move on and wrestle somebody else, and they can always bring Ronda back in to continue that story. And she would have a legit gripe. It's one of those heel turns where the heel has a legitimate gripe as to why they're doing what they're doing. It's like, she tapped out. I should be the champion, but the ref sucked and didn't do his job. So, I mean, that's
And see,
basically it.
this is where they should have had Jeff Jarrett. But anyway,
Yeah.
um, the one I like the storyline, but I think they pulled the trigger on it too early because
Well,
right now that's her first title defense, and she's
yeah,
already
yeah.
doing that. And to me, it makes her look a little bit weaker. And apparently, I was reading this right before we started recording. They've already started saying you tapped out, you tapped out.
Yeah, the fans have started to turn on her, which it's funny because I also saw on Twitter, which I remember this on Raw back in January when Liv was feuding with Becky. Becky said the fans don't really want Liv to be champion. They're cheering her now. They want her to do good as long as she doesn't do too good. Because if she does too good, then they're going to turn on you. Ric Flair had said that one time in a promo long time ago. He said people want to see you do well, just not better than them.
Right.
That's why he's like, and that's why people don't like me, because I'm doing better than they are. And I mean, Becky, it was a wrestling promo from Becky, but she was right. People have been pushing for 2 years for Liv Morgan to be a champion. And now that she's a champion, they're like, oh, well, we got what we wanted, and now we don't want it.
Yeah, they want her to remain the underdog.
Yeah. And it's like, you can only be the underdog for so long before you either have to quit or win.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't be an indefinite underdog. I mean, they tried that in ECW with Tommy Dreamer. Tommy Dreamer never wanted to actually win a championship in ECW. The only time Tommy Dreamer won any championships, another guy was leaving. Is the only reason that he ever won. He wanted to be that ultimate,
the lovable loser.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the ceiling for that is only so high before people get tired of it.
And I mean, I even said not horrible, not great.
No, it was what it was, and it not for lack of the women involved, not their issue.
Mm-mm.
The timing really messed it up. If they'd have had more time in the match, and I feel like the heel turn would have been accepted more organically.
Right.
They would have had time to get there. But in 4.5 minutes, they had to rush through everything. That's perfect example of having to play the greatest hits. They had to try to cram everything.
The whole match was her doing an arm bar, Liv gets to the ropes. Arm bar, Liv gets to the ropes. Arm bar, pin. Well, that's it.
Yeah.
So
Liv tries to hit Oblivion. Ronda gets her in the arm bar. Then we have the pin tap out situation. 4.5 minutes is just not nearly a long enough for a standard match, much less a championship match.
The next segment, if you really want to call it a segment, it was just Kane coming out, making the attendance announcement. And my only note, not a bad touch, but he's the mayor in Knox County, not Davidson.
Yeah. Here's another problem with it. Kane said that there was over 49,000 people in that arena. In that stadium. I said arena. In that stadium.
It doesn't even have a roof.
Yeah. There was not. There was only 39,000 and some change in there. They once again they inflated the attendance numbers because they could not sell out Nissan Stadium. Nissan Stadium holds, I believe it's 69,128.
It's huge.
It is massive. That was my first time being in there. I would love to see a football game in that stadium because it's a beautiful stadium. But I'm not a Titans fan, so they'd have to play somebody I liked. The entire opposite, like we were all sitting on the hard cam, the backside, half the stadium was tarped off because when Hope and I left to go pick up this shirt, we were coming around, and for the main event, we went over on the tarped off side. So we had a different view. That's when I could see the Tron over the entranceway. That's the only time the whole show I could see it because we went around and sat over there. But yeah, when Kane said there was 49,000 and some change, no, there was actually 39,000 and some change in a stadium that holds 69,000 and some change.
Oh, well, either way, I was like, yeah, hey, there's 49,000. Well, see you later.
Yeah, I mean, that was literally it. And he did the Kane thing. Seeing the flames come out of the turnbuckles was cool. Seeing it live, but I mean, that was it. Another pointless segment that they could have just had the commentators say how many people were in attendance.
Yeah.
And again, gave that 5 minutes to Ronda and Liv to better book their match.
Now, last match, main event. I will have my very first criticism of something, and I'm pretty sure you had the criticism while you were there.
Mm-hmm.
Champion should always come out last.
Yes, that's exactly what I told Hope. I said it's disrespectful for Roman to come out first.
Yep.
And she's like, what do you mean? I said, he is the champion. Champion should always come out last. It shows respect for the champion and respects for the championship. Yep. And she's like, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and we know they did that because Brock's going to have some weird entrance, but either way, it doesn't matter. I mean, switch up his entrance.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask, you were 5 rows from the top. The pyrotechnics were literally like right by your head. How loud were they?
Well, actually, by then we were on the backside where it was tarped off.
Ah, okay. So you had moved. Okay,
we had moved, but it was still loud. That pyro was still loud. And I warned Hope this time so it didn't scare her to death. I said, there's going to be pyro for Roman. I said, when he raises the title, there's going to be pyro for Roman. When Brock comes out, there's going to be pyro for Brock. I said, so that way you're prepared. But it was awesome to see that live and see it circle around the top of the stadium. Yeah. And then Brock comes out on his tractor.
That was kind of unique. And one of the things I did put, like the front loader being raised before he moved.
Yeah.
Was very unsafe.
Yeah.
But I was like, why did they do that? Then I realized, okay, if he didn't do that, he wouldn't have been able to make it down that aisle.
Yeah, he wouldn't. And yeah, he would have. I mean, if he swung it, he would have hit so many people because I mean, there was it was that aisleway was tight.
And the way that thing was raised up, I mean, of course, he's also so he can see under.
Yeah.
If he would have turned the wheel a little bit too much one way or the other, he actually still could have tipped over.
He still could have tipped it. Yeah.
So they may want to think about that the next time.
Yeah. I think they were counting on Brock being a farm boy though, and he's worked.
And yeah. And you saw me the way he was messing with the control. I mean, he knew what he was doing.
Oh yeah, he knew what he was doing. I mean, he has a 500-acre ranch now in Canada, and he grew up on a farm, so he knows. I mean, he knows what he's doing.
He grew up on a farm in South Dakota, but they keep billing him as being from Minneapolis.
Yeah, I know.
They need to knock that off.
Yeah.
Now the broadcast. I'm pretty sure you've seen the videos of this when Brock did his. I'm 280 pounds, which also made me feel bad because I'm like, oh my God, I weigh more than Brock Lesnar. And but when he tossed the microphone to Roman, and you see the video where Roman just smoothly
that was the smoothest catch I've ever seen in wrestling. Anybody that was smoother than Steve Austin catching beers, like almost over his head. I mean, Roman just literally just dropped his hand down, caught it, winked at Brock like,
I got it. The wink when you watch it, they didn't catch the catch. You've seen that on videos later on. Yeah, they did catch it. Said they went to Roman. He winked at him. Like, I got it. It's all right. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
And of course, Corey Graves, he was quoting, depending on who you are, it could be both. He was quoting either Iron Maiden or Revelation 12:12. Woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil sends the beast with wrath. That's what he actually said that as part of his thing. I'm like, okay, that could be Iron Maiden or it could be Revelation 12:12 because that's where Iron Maiden got it from.
Yeah.
And the commentary when Brock started tractoring the ring, I made up a new verb, tractoring. When he lifted the thing up, and then all of a sudden, the commentary went like mute. Mm-hmm. Then it came back, and you're like, they dropped a couple of GD and F bombs.
Yeah, and there was their 7-second delay.
Yeah, and then I'm also thinking, okay, the front row fans who just paid thousands of dollars for those tickets, they can't see anything now.
No, yeah, because
Yep. And to be honest with you, the match itself, there wasn't. I mean, it was a falls. It was a last man standing, so you knew it was going to. That had everything. There was nothing special about it. If that makes
yeah.
any sense.
There was nothing special about it, but at the same time,
It was cool to
and
watch, but
it was cool to watch. And honestly, I think this is the best match they've ever had.
yeah, because I mean they've had to raise the bar.
Yeah, quality wise, this is the best match they've ever had. And I mean, Brock got all his stuff in. He was dominating Roman. And then, and I love Roman doesn't get enough credit for the acting part of his character. Like when he continuously hitting Brock with everything that he could get his hands on, and Brock is still getting up at like the 8 count. Roman's got this look on his face like, are you kidding me? Can you just stay down? What else do I have to do? And that part of it was just, it's like, that's a person who is comfortable with his character and knows how to play that character and knows how to get that over to the crowd.
Paul Heyman come over there, just take the belts. This is my meal ticket. And I was like, okay, and then he F5'd him, and that was.
And kudos to Paul Heyman, because Hope said Paul Heyman's dead. He's just dead. And like the rest of the time we're watching it, and she's like, he hasn't moved. Paul Heyman did not move from that spot until the Usos moved him so they could get pieces of the announce table to stack on top of Brock to keep him from getting up. But that was before. Poor Theory. Theory tried to cash in.
My next note was Theory is a blooming idiot.
Yeah, he tries to cash in.
So you're cashing, yep, and he gets
eats an F5. Then Roman beats the crap out of him, and then it's like, can you just take that boy onto the back, because it's not going to happen. But it was good that Roman won. I like the fact that Brock gave as good as he got.
Yeah.
He not only did he get, he got all his stuff in, like I said, but when Roman made his comeback, Brock sold tremendously for Roman. And Hope said something really good. She said that it speaks a lot of what Brock Lesnar must think of Roman Reigns to do the job for him in the main event on pay-per-view.
Yep.
It speaks a lot of what Brock thinks of Roman as a person and a performer, that he was willing to do the job. Because the way Brock's contract structured, Brock pretty much can do whatever he wants. If he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't technically have to. So for him to be willing to go out there, take that beating from Roman and lose says a lot. Plus, after the show ended, the cameras were still on the ring, and you could tell Brock just had the time of his life, because the trainers and stuff were checking on him, and he's just laying there talking to one of the trainers, and him and her are just laughing. Brock's got this huge smile on his face, like he's just had the best time ever. So that was cool to see, because Brock gets this reputation of being just this, selfish, like money hungry person.
And I think he softened that quite a bit because of I think he did start listening to the criticism, because before he's like, I don't care what people think. Now I think he's realizing you need to care a little bit.
And I think a lot of it is too, like when he was on Broken Skull sessions, he told Steve Austin that it's like, he said, I don't like people. It's not that he's like, it's not that I hate people. I just don't do good in social situations. So I feel like Brock might have a little bit of social anxiety too.
Could be.
So I'm just speculating on that. So to see him having so much fun with what he's doing is, it's a good thing to see. I mean, I have social anxiety sometimes, so I understand that part.
Well, overall, for the entire pay-per-view, I mean, my next note's overall a good show. Not perfect, but definitely net positive. Said some unnecessary things, but not too much. No title changes, which is always kind of odd. No Intercontinental title again. And is this indicative of the direction moving forward? Because I think if it is, they're moving in a good direction.
Yeah, me too. And I think it is I think it's a good direction they're headed. You can definitely see Triple H's fingerprints all over the show with the way it was booked, the people that are brought back. And it wasn't just a one-trick pony. It continued on Raw with focus being on Tommaso Ciampa. Plus, we got an amazing match with The Miz, Mustafa Ali, and AJ Styles. Have you seen the end of that match?
I have
Did you-
not.
Oh, the end of that match is absolutely one of the best counters I've ever seen. It's been all over Twitter.
I have. Okay, I've seen that part of it. So
Yeah, that part of it. But the entire match was good. But the fact that Ciampa is being pushed like he is, you can tell that's a Triple H decision. On SmackDown, for anybody who hasn't seen SmackDown, spoiler alert, Karrion Kross is back with the entrance with Scarlett, which the entrance was a diversion so he could beat up Drew McIntyre. But that's what they should have done to begin with when they brought him to the main roster, not job him out to Jeff Hardy in 2 minutes. From what I read, they're going to put Karrion Kross in the main event scene on SmackDown. Some people are not happy with that. I am perfectly fine with that because they don't have a lot of main event people on SmackDown. Raw has more main event people than SmackDown does. So it's smart to put Karrion Kross there. And, you know, two-time former NXT champion. He was undefeated in NXT. Ignore all the Vince McMahon crap that they gave him when he came to the main roster the first time. Treat him like a killer. And that's what they're doing. So I think it's going to be like, it's gotten unpredictable again, which is very good for wrestling. Wrestling's always much better when it has an air of unpredictability. So I think WWE as a whole is headed in a good direction. They've also announced the tournament for the women's tag team championships.
Yep, saw that earlier.
Which hints to me that they're on the verge of getting Sasha and Naomi back, which is fantastic too.
But some of that, well, hopefully, we'll be able to discuss on Monday because we do need to go ahead and wrap up.
Yeah.
But once again, everybody, if you want to contact us, it's at armchairbookingpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on all the social media outlets that we mentioned earlier, including the podcast, and you can also find Dwaylon and his stuff, fat_daddy73.
Yep.
On Twitter. But Monday, maybe that'll be some things we discuss. Because there may be a lot to happen between now and Monday.
Could be. I mean, we've still got, today, tomorrow, Monday during the day. So, I mean, you never know what's going to happen. So,
yep. So, but we will be discussing that on Monday. So keep a listen out for us. But until then, God bless.
God bless.